Hello, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world, and welcome to this Superliminal Games YouTube video. What do I got for you today? Well, first off, I'm Dan. I know it's been a while since I've been on the channel, but what I have for you today is a little Gladiator deck tech and gameplay. But Dan, what's Gladiator, you ask? Well, I'm glad you asked. Gladiator is an Magic Arena only format. It is Singleton, like a Highlander, sort of EDH, Canadian Highlander, things you may have heard of. 100 card Singleton only, Arena only format using every card that is legal in Arena. There are only 2 cards that are banned in the format, and those are Oko, Thief of Crowns, because of course it is, and Field of the Dead, also because of course it is. Every other card that has been released on Arena at all is legal. That's every card from Jumpstart, every card in Historic, every banned card in Standard or Historic. Everything that's been released on Arena is playable in this format. The format is played in a traditional 3-game match. You have 20 life at the start of the match. Presently, there is no queue, as it is entirely a fan-made format. However, there is an active Discord where you can find games frequently, and just, you know, if you got a couple friends who play Arena, build up decks. It's really not that hard. There's a lot you can do. I'm not going to say you can do anything, but there's a lot you can do. So I'm going to run through a little deck tech with my 4-color Vannifar, Neoform, Enter the Battlefield, Tribal. I call it Vannifar Pod, calling back to Birthing Pod, one of my favorite cards ever printed. Actually, the last time I think I played Standard was Birthing Pod in Standard, so tells you how long it's been since I've played Standard. In paper. Obviously, I play it on Arena constantly. But in paper, the last time I think I played was when Birthing Pod was legal. So what do we have here? We'll start with the ones. I've got Arboreal Grazer. It is pretty much necessary in green-based decks at this point because you can just get that mana advantage. Gilded Goose, same thing. Llanowar Elves, same thing. All of the 1-drops, they're a good base to start up a Neoform or Prime Speaker Vannifar chain, and they get you more mana out. On the 2s, again, there's a bunch of mana in here. There's Humble Naturalist, Incubation Druid, Paradise Druid, and Marleaf Pixie that all give mana. We've got Fibblethip the Lost in here, which is really just in here, again, as something with an enters the battlefield. The card draw is important. I've definitely run out of cards in my hand with this deck more than once. Dismissive Pyromancer, obviously because this is a creature-based, enters the battlefield-based deck, there aren't a lot of removal spells that are available to us, so Pyromancer is a removal spell for 4 toughness or less creatures. Goblin Cratermaker, same thing, it can destroy colorless stuff. Ugin is real big in the format, so being able to destroy an Ugin or a similar colorless non-land permanent is really important, and 2 damage to a creature is something that can take a lot of the ramp creatures out of the way. It's really good in a combat situation against a weenie deck, you know, do a little chump block, kill their 2 toughness creature, maybe you live an extra turn. Destiny Spinner, that's our anti-counterspell card. Also, being a 2/3 is relevant in the early stages of the game. I mean, this coming down in turn 2 kind of stymies a lot of small creatures. Elvish Visionary, now we're really getting into those enters the battlefield triggers, so we're going to draw cards. Fauna Shaman, it's a creature deck. This is probably the best tutor available to creature decks, at least outside of things like Grim Tutor. Humble Naturalist is mana, like we said, as is the Incubation Druid. Crawl Harpooner, flyers are a big problem for this deck as we don't have a ton of them, and most of the things that can block that are on higher CMC. So, plus we put a lot of stuff in our graveyard with Neoform and with Vannifar. Paradise Druid we talked about. Fiend Artisan is also a thing that puts a lot of creatures into our graveyard and is probably better than Vannifar, to be honest, because you can choose how big the thing is you go and get. So it's great if you flood out and only have a few creatures. You can really go and do a lot with what you can grab. Marleaf Pixie we talked about. Neoform, another thing that allows us to grab, especially the extra +1/+1 counter really matters. So sometimes that's all it takes to get your slightly larger creature slightly further out of range. Finale of Devastation, the second best tutor, I think, in the deck behind Fauna Shaman, because if you get it big enough, if you flood out or something like that, it can just end a game as well. Also, it can get a creature out of your graveyard, which I don't know how many times I've forgotten that and had to go for what would be the second best creature for the situation, just because even though it prompts you to search your graveyard, I always just click Library and go from there. Onto the threes, Cloudkin Seer draws a card. It's like Elvish Visionary. It just gets you card advantage. Exclusion Mage is great. You get to rebuy your own ETBs if you want to, or you can bounce a troublesome token on your opponent's side, or just something that they invested a lot of mana in, and kind of time walk yourself there, make them take another turn to pay it, to play it. Mirror Image is the second best clone we have access to. I'll take it. I will take a clone if I can get one. Cultivate, M21 really helped us out. This is, like I said, a 4-color deck. We'll see the black stuff here in a little bit. It's base a Temur deck, but there is a Plains and a Swamp, so we're really actually a full 5-color, but the Plains only comes in a little bit later. The black is actually a color that the deck needs to function, so being able to grab the Swamp with a Cultivate or the Plains with a Cultivate if we need it is good, plus the mana ramp. You can see here the number of 6, 7s, and 8s that the deck has, and so we need to be able to cast those spells. District Guide, same story. It has a cool ETB, and it allows us to get up a chain to 4. Elvish Rejuvenator, same story. It's a 3, lets us get to 4 with a chain, and gets mana that we need. Reclamation Sage, I think I've used this more to kill enchantment creatures than I have to kill enchantments or artifacts, or to kill artifact creatures, but gotta tell you, your opponent taps out for Golos, and has that, if they have that 7th mana or the ability to make it, and you just go, no, you cannot activate your Golos. Reclamation Sage looks pretty good there. Thrashing Brontodon, same story. Artifacts and enchantments are a real bugaboo, and so we have creature-based removal that we can tutor into. Klothys I wasn't entirely sold on at the very beginning, but then I had a game where I stuck her on turn 2 and just drained out my opponent faster than they could race me, and it was great. Rhythm of the Wild. Haste is really important, especially with things like Vannifar, and being able to have that access right when you play her is fantastic. Also, just being able to attack with some of the fatter stuff in the deck is really peach. Kiora draws us cards. Untaps permanents, which is relevant with things like the Great Henge that we'll get to later. It's relevant for creatures that tap for mana. There's a lot of different ways that we can abuse or use that untap ability. Risen Reef might ramp us mana. At the very least, it draws us cards. We don't have, I think, any other elementals in the deck right now, but even just its trigger is good enough. Uro, are you playing blue-green? You're probably playing Uro. It's just that good. And again, it ramps us mana. Mana kind of being the name of the game here. Spark Double, the best clone we have access to, and one of the best clones that has ever been printed. One of my favorite things is casting Vannifar and then activating her and chaining a 3 into Spark Double into a second Vannifar because it doesn't have is not affected by the legendary rule. I think that is absolutely huge. The downside to Vannifar is that you only have one normally, and so having Spark Double there to get a subsequent Vannifar is absolutely fantastic. Thassa Deep Dwelling, Weird enters the battlefield deck. I cannot tell you the number of games I've won just off the back of sliding out a creature, or blinking a creature, I guess, because it's an end-step trigger. Blinking a creature like a Ravenous Chupacabra or a Kogla or something like that, and just machine gunning our opponent's creatures with Thassa. And the ability to tap down their stuff in their combat phase is fantastic as well. Dungeon Geist's here to tap down annoying stuff that you can't deal with. It's another great Vannifar thing to go into a relatively useless 3-drop like an Elvish Rejuvenator or something into a Dungeon Geist to tap down the big thing your opponent just played. Mythos of Eluna, you can copy literally anything with this, and boy have I. I've copied Fiend Artisans, I have copied Koglas, even with the Legend rule. I've copied some of my opponent's coolest stuff. Sometimes I've copied just Ravenous Chupacabras for the double, the ETB, and the fight. Mythos of Luna is the other best clone that we have access to, really. This deck has some really powerful clones. Ravenous Chupacabra, as I just mentioned. Cards bonkers. Cards bonkers. There's really nothing else I can say about it. The ability to have a 2/2 for 4 that just deads whatever you can target. It's not indestructible or protection from black on your opponent's side is absolutely bonkers. The ways we can reanimate or slide this or blink it or get it back in some way. You do a lot of work with this card. It's, in fact, the main reason this and the card, it's about 3 down from here, the only reason why this deck really plays black. Rekindling Phoenix is it's great. It's a great thing to pot away. You know, it's a good thing to neoform away, a good thing to pot away with Vannifar because you get it back. And there is value in that. It's also kind of an eternal blocker. It makes them have 2 removal spells to really deal with it. I dig that. Guardian Project, it draws cards. It's not splashy, it's not fantastic, but it keeps cards in your hand, which is important. Hostage Taker is the card I was referencing with Ravenous Chupacabra. That's the other reason we play black. And yeah, cards also great. The number of times I've removed tokens with a Hostage Taker, and the opponent just goes, well, I guess I'm conceding, because they can't ever get them back. The number of things I've stolen from my opponents and then immediately recast. Hostage Taker is just a fantastic Magic card. Once we were playing black, Acolyte of Affliction became a real get here. It's the kind of thing where I've made copies of it. I've blinked it with Thassa. I've done a lot of that to get mostly Ravenous Chupacabras and Hostage Takers back from my graveyard. But really, you can get anything that you've Vannifar'd away or Neoformed away, and you can get Vannifar back, which is also kind of important. Solemn Simulacrum, another great M21 add to this deck. As soon as I saw it spoiled, I was like, well, that's snap in, and it has performed great. The number of times I've been able to cast this on 3, go up to 5 mana on turn 3, and cast a 6-drop on turn 4 is really great, and being able to ramp up mana like that is absolutely fantastic. Body Double, we're a pod deck. Going from Ravenous Chupacabra, casting Ravenous Chupacabra, activate Vannifar, go get a Body Double to copy the Chupacabra, and you've just spent 4 mana, killed 2 things on your opponent's side, and you have a 2/2 left, is a great line. And it's kind of sick, to be honest. And really, you can do a lot with this. I've faced against a mill deck recently since Brutaclad came out, and being able to Body Double stupid things that I couldn't even afford to cast because they milled into them was fantastic. Luca is our other birthing pod in this deck. The -2 is absolutely real. I've accidentally won games off of the back of Luca. The most damage I've ever dealt in a Magic the Gathering game, over 6,000 damage in 1 turn, was dealt thanks to Luca exiling a 2-drop creature and hitting a God Eternal Ronus when I had a Mirror March out, and Ronus and several Mirror March triggers, and my opponent became no more very quickly. Terror of the Peaks was another great M21 add. First off, it's just a 5/4 flyer for 5 is just good. The fact that spells that target it make your opponent lose life is just great. I mean, it just turns every removal spell into a lightning bolt on your side. That's fantastic. But that 3rd block of text there is what we're here for. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, Terror of the Peaks deals damage to that equal to that creature's power to any target. Another time when I've just killed my opponent, because you just pod into something big, deal the damage, and then attack. It's very big. Biogenic Ooze, it's great. It's a great card. Making multiple Biogenic Ooze is often a path to victory in this deck. Getting down an Ooze and a Mirror Image or a Spark Double or Mythos of Aluna, and just having that multiple +1/+1 counters going on the Oozes, and then you just keep making Oozes with the Biogenic Ooze every turn, and eventually your army is just, it's overwhelming and enormous, which is exactly what the card is designed to do. It's great. As mentioned, God Eternal Ronus is disgusting. Also a great thing to have it come in, double power for everything, and then pot it into a 6-drop that maybe has haste or is Kogla or something like that, and then it just comes back in a couple turns, because that's really the most annoying part of these God Eternals when you're playing against them, or the best part when you're playing them. Cavalier of Thorns has reach. Blocks flyers, is big dumb green. Not really much I can say about that. Yorion gives us a chance to slide everything. Still not entirely sold on this card. I've definitely had times where I cast it and I have maybe 1 or 2 things to slide and it's not all that great. But there have been other times when I cast it and it just absolutely houses my opponent with the number of things that I can slide, considering all the ETBs in the deck. So it stays in for now, but with Kaladesh Remastered, Amonkhet Remastered, and Zendikar Rising coming soon, I'm not entirely certain it's going to stick around for long. Same with Karuga the Macro Sage, actually. The ability to draw the cards is really cool, but it's also kind of a donkey on an empty board in that it's just a 5/4 for 5, and meh. Yarok the Desecrated, another card that once we were playing black was just an absolute jam this in here. Doubling ETB triggers in a deck built around ETB triggers is great. Plus it has Death Touch, which is not to be undersold. Golos. It's Golos. Have you ever played Golos? You know why it's in the deck. If you haven't, it's stupid. It's busted. The ability to pay 7 mana and possibly cast up to 24 mana worth of things, it's dumb. Shouldn't be legal, but it is, so we play it. Plus it fixes our colors when it ETBs, which is also great. Dream Eater, a card that when you blink it with Thassa or slide it with Yorion is just stupid. First off, the Surveil is cool, and second off, getting to bounce your opponent's stuff is really, really frustrating. I had a game where between the Dream Eater and the Mythos of Illuna Dream Eater and the Spark Double Dream Eater, my opponent ended the game with 0 permanents on the board, despite the fact that it was about turn 15. So, Dream Eater's dumb and great. Plus it flies. Mirror March. Now we get to the spiciest card in the deck, and also possibly my favorite card in the deck. Mirror March is absolutely batty when it works. When you don't win any coin flips and you don't get anything extra out of it, it's a big 6 mana waste that just sits there and does nothing. But oh boy, when it works and you get to have repeat ETB effects, it's absolutely bonkers. And with the number of cool things that we're about to get to, like the last 6 creatures in the deck here are the kind of things you want to win at least one, if not multiple flips of Mirror March. Like Kogla. Kogla's fight is huge, though to be fair, having multiple Koglas is actually not that great. So I take it back, it's the other cards, the last 5 cards here, that are really the best with Mirror March. Like Ravager Worm. Fight a thing or destroy a land. Great, with Riot. And Rhythm of the Wild, again, also gives Riot. So you can have it be a 5/6 with haste that fights a thing or destroys a land with an activated ability that isn't mana ability. Dumb. Play it. Agent of Treachery. Did you play Standard in the last year? Do you hate Agent of Treachery? Probably. Terror of Mount Velis. Just a nice little double strike trigger on a 5/5 flyer. It's pretty cool. It having double strike constantly works out a lot. Not a lot of stuff that's too much bigger than this in Highlander, in Gladiator, so you can actually do a fair piece with it just blocking. And also attacking for functional 10 is great. And then we get to my other 2 favorite cards in the deck. My Baby, the recently released from Jumpstart Craterhoof Behemoth. Holy poop, this card is good. Even if you have 2, maybe 3 creatures in the battlefield, the ability to pump everything by that and just get trample and just dumpster your opponent is huge. Also, Endray's Forerunners, giving +2/+2 in Vigilance is big. I've definitely had both of these get multiplied by Mirror Marches or Yaroks, and can I tell you that potting into this from Agent of Treachery, like casting Agent of Treachery, stealing something from your opponent, potting into a Hoof or an Endray's Forerunners is just, it's mean and dirty, and it shouldn't be allowed. But it is, and it's great, so we do it. Then we have the Great Henge. Honestly, here as much for the life gain as it is for anything else, because aggro decks can kind of run over this deck. It's a little slow to set up, and it needs a little bit to get to these enormous, big powerhouse creatures. So if we can get a slightly larger creature out, or get our mana ramp going, and cast maybe like a 5 mana or 6 mana Great Henge, it's pretty good from there, just getting 2 life every turn, and then putting +1/+1 counters on every creature that ATBs and drawing a card is fantastic, especially when you have things like Yarok or Mirror March, where you're just getting multiple triggers. Well, not Mirror March because it's non-token, but Yarok getting multiple triggers is pretty good, especially when you have something like a Risen Reef or a Cloudkin Seer or an Elvish Visionary. Just getting extra card draw is really good because you can run out of cards in this deck very quickly. So that's the non-lands. The lands are what I would consider a relatively standard land package for a deck like this. It's got a ton of dual lands, and it's got 4 of the 5 triomes, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, 4 of the 5 triomes. Ancient Ziggurat, which I'm on the fence with cutting. It's great because we're a predominantly creature deck, but it has definitely stabbed me in the back at least one too many times. We've got Evolving Wilds and Fabled Passage in here, as much for the shuffle effect as they are for the ability to fix colors. And Field of Ruin is a relic of every deck playing Field of the Dead before it was banned, but I still think it deserves being in the deck because it can actually color fix us if we need to, which I've used it for that before. Got some basic lands. Got a Castle Garenberg in here because the predominant base of creatures, as you can see, is green. So getting multiple green sources, especially because we have 1, 2, 3, 4 triple green sources. So having the ability to add 6 green with only 2 green on the board, other than it, is pretty good. Also added in a Thriving Grove from Jumpstart. Not sure how I feel about the rest of the Thrivings, because tap lands are already kind of a thing, but I wanted the green base Thriving again because we're a base green deck, and it's then whatever other color you need it to be at the time, which is kind of good, because with only 1 swamp, 1 plains, and basically the triomes is real multiple color to get those splash colors, kind of sometimes need that, especially to activate Golos. Really, the white's in here to activate Golos. Casting Yorion happens occasionally, but it's mostly just here for Golos, because being able to activate Golos, and again, like I said, hitting Craterhoof, Endraze, and Great Henge, the maximum we could hit here, which would be 25 mana worth of stuff, would be kind of bonkers. So that's the deck. The deck list will be posted down below, and if you'll stick with us for just a second, we'll get into the games. And here we are ready to go into the games. Found an opponent from the Discord that I spoke of a little while ago, the Gladiator Discord. Going to challenge them to a best of 3 match. And then once they respond to the challenge, we'll be good to go. And here we go. Weird. There we go. Okay, so we did not win the die roll, which is somewhat unfortunate because this deck does like to get out pretty quickly, but we have 4 lands in hand and a Solemn, and our opponent has mulliganed, so yeah, we're going to keep on the 7 here. That would be great, as we can play tap land, and kind of develop as we go, and if we don't have anything by turn 4, we can still Solemn, and then this actually is enough land to get into Ravager Worm territory as well. So we're going to go, since we drew that Marrowleaf Pixie, we're going to go for the Evolving Wilds, and we will get an island, and then we can play the forest, play the Marrowleaf Pixie, and then play the Solemn on 3. Okay, it looks like our opponent is mono red. This should be interesting. So we need to definitely get stuff going and hope they don't have removal spells. All we need to do is kind of survive long enough to get this Ravager Worm on the battlefield, and I think that does pretty well, just because it is big. Okay, opponent looks like Gruul. We're not going to block here, because we need this Marrowleaf Pixie in order to cast our Solemn this turn. Opponent did mulligan down pretty far, which is something you can do in this format, because the options are pretty strong. Okay, we've got a Sunder Shaman revealed off the top there for our opponent. I'm going to go ahead and play this Forest, play this Solemn, and we're going to go get a Mountain. So now we technically have access to all of our colors between the Thriving Grove and the Overgrown Tomb. Whatever they attack with, we're blocking something with a Solemn unless they just kill it with Cratermaker. This is going to... Yeah, we're just going to let that hit so they can't kill our Marrowleaf Pixie as well. Because Careless Celebrant, when it dies, deals 2 damage to a creature or planeswalker we control. Okay, and here we go. Ravager Worm. We're going to fight the Branchwalker. We'll give it +1/+1 counter. And we're going to fight the Branchwalker here. Okay. And we'll leave the Solemn back as a blocker if we need it. Because now... Ah, Ferocidon. Okay. Now we need to keep multiple creatures. Okay. We're a little off of being able to cast the Chupacabra, so we will... Thriving Grove now taps for green and black. And we're just going to sail over them for 2. His next turn we play an Overgrown Tomb on tap, take 2 damage with Chupacabra out the Ferocidons. Yes, and then we have Luca on tap. So we're going to take a damage off the Ferocidons to do this, but that's fine. So we'll go to 13. And we'll send the Ravager Worm and the Mireleaf Pixie this time. Because as long as we have a creature on the battlefield next turn, we'll be okay. To Luca. We lose the Mireleaf Pixie for the ramp, but that's fine. We've survived long enough to establish our board in such a way that we have enough lands. We've got Luca coming down next turn. We can ditch the Solemn, get a 5-drop or higher. Nope, and the opponent wisely, I think, sees what's on the table there. So no sideboards in this format. So even though you play best of 3 match style, there's nothing to sideboard in, so we can just move on to the next game immediately. Sorry I kept you waiting, opponent. Okay, we've got a temple, an island, a castle. That's a lot of tapped lands, but we have an Elvish Visionary, we have a Biogenic Ooze, which is great. We've got a Dream Eater and a Terror of the Peaks here. We're on the draw. We have the ability to scry. I think we keep this, because again, if we can survive, the power of the stuff in our hand is kind of enormous. Kiora here is a nice card draw. We have 4 mana, the ability to draw another or ramp with Kiora. We will keep Kiora on top. So next turn, we're going to play an Island and Elvish Visionary. Turn 3, we're looking to play Island, Kiora, and then Castle Garenbrig, and then we can go and start ramping out stuff. Island, Visionary. We'll draw Blood Crypt. Okay, that's a red source. Still nothing to have this Garenbrig come in untapped, but that's fine. Opponent... Oh, Klothys. As we discussed a little bit ago, Klothys is a real threat. So we'll go ahead and play the Kiora. We will not attack and end the turn. Gallia! Oh boy. Okay. Well, fortunately, next turn we can have... Well, Biogenic Ooze? Yeah, I think we want Biogenic Ooze. So, tap that for green, that for green, that for blue, that for blue. Kiora, untap that, and cast this Biogenic Ooze. And next turn we can have a Dream Eater. No attacks. Because we don't want to put any creatures or anything into the graveyard to keep Klothys off. So now Gallia... Oh, to Gargaroth. Oh boy, we got a lot to contend with here. We're going to throw this token at the Jurta Goblin, and we're going to throw this Elvish Visionary and Klothys. Because we need to find a way, or not find a way, we need to get this Gargaroth off the board. So... I think the trick is going to be Dream Eater, because it draws us a card and bounces the Gargaroth and gives us another turn to try to find an answer to the Gargaroth. So we will do this. And Dream Eater. We will Surveil and then draw. So we will put them on the stack with the Surveil first and then the draw. Yep. None of this is going to do it, unfortunately. Well, the forest this turn... the Castle Garenbrig ship has sailed, so all of that can go away. Return Elder Gargaroth to our opponent's hand, and we'll draw, unfortunately, a land. No attacks here. Biogenic Ooze is now larger. Stuff's gonna get exiled here, so we're gonna get drained for 2. Which is unfortunate. But I think we're at a place where we can put Terror of the Peaks now. Oof, Burning Tree. Burning Tree is going to give him the Gargaroth mana again. Yep, okay. Opponent has had quite the turn here. Can we afford to take this 4? I think... Well, let's see what we have coming down next turn. 2, 3, 4, 5... So that's Terror of the Peaks mana. If we take this 4, we go to 6. Then we go to 4. Opponent has... Yeah, I think we can afford to do that. No blocks. I don't know, my math might be bad here, but... Crater Maker. I think it's gotta be Terror of the Peaks. Draw our untapped land. There we go. Now we can untap that with Kiora. Play Crater Maker. Use Terror of the Peaks ability to knock down the Gallia. And not attack at all. And now the Biogenic Ooze is bigger. And our opponent has to play another permanent. Granted, I don't know that we're winning this game, but we're slowing down the pace at which we're losing this game. Yeah. So they're not attacking with Burning. No? They're not attacking. Alright, let's see what the opponent's got going on here. Okay, they're just going to attack with the Gargaroth. So unfortunately, I think we finally have to give up the Biogenic Ooze. Put the Ooze and the Dream Eater in front of here so that even if their hand is a pump spell, they're not getting through. They're losing the Gargaroth. Yep. So many lands. So many lands. Well, I don't know that we can win from here, but we're going to try. So we will play the Rejuvenator. We'll look for land. We will deal 1 damage to our opponent, because there's no other thing we're doing. No lands to choose, and a Kogla was on top. Yikes. Okay, we'll play Breeding Pool tapped. We will attack with Terror of the Peaks, because our opponent's reach creature isn't there anymore. And we will untap Terror of the Peaks so that they may block. What we're going to do with this Crater Maker is if they attack all out, we are going to block unless they... Oh! Okay, we're just dead. There's 2 there, and then 2 from the Klothys on upkeep is the game. Okay. We go to 3. I think we were a turn or 2 away from being able to turn that around, but let's play first. Absolutely cannot keep this hand. 1 land and a bunch of expensive spells does not make for a good hand. Here we have another 5-land hand, but it actually has an early play in the Kral Harpooner, and honestly, Finale of Devastation can be used on 4 mana to pretty decent effect as well. So I will take this. We're going to put back this Blood Crypt. Yes. And then we're going to lead on Evolving Wilds, and we will get an island on turn 1. Yeah. Well, actually, let's go get a forest. No, let's get an island. Let's be somewhat disciplined here. Play that tapped. So now we have access to 4 colors. Next turn we'll have access to 5. Our opponent's got an Unchained Berserker, which is pretty big. We will go here. And we will play a Marrowleaf Pixie because we want to have more mana to put into Finale of Devastation, or we want to be able to fly over them. Because we're not blocking this Berserker for the moment. Okay, Grumgully is a problem. No blocks. And here we are, Fabled Passage. That's going to... Let's see, we make green, green, red. I'm going to get a green here. And... Yes, gonna Finale for 3. Search our library. And we have a variety of options. I was thinking about getting here on 3. Chief among them, Thrashing Brontodon, because it's bigger than anything that's on the board, and I think that's where I'm going to go. Not really great to use in this situation because it's just kind of whatever, but getting something that's bigger than what's on the board is important. Obviously, we could also Uro, which lets us ramp yet further, and gains us life. So I'm actually... No, yeah. No, I'm gonna go with the Brontodon because it's bigger. So we have Harpooner and Incubation Druid that can come down next turn. So we have the ability to block pretty well. Obviously, if the opponent has removal, that's a real thing. If they have like a fight or something similar, that could hurt. They're hovering the Brontodon a fair bit, so... And they're hovering their Grumgully, so I'm imagining they have something. Goblin Banneret. Grumgully makes that bigger. Krenko. Grumgully makes that bigger. We need to deal with this Krenko, or we're just going to die. Unfortunately, Krenko's going to have to live another... Well, not live another day, but at least be able to attack once. So, we've met them. We'll have Luca next turn with Incubation Druid, and we can down Luca with any one of these to see what we can get. It's kind of like pulling a slot machine, this deck, sometimes. Sometimes you get a really cool... Oh, Gargaroth again. Boof. Okay, here goes nothing. Luca, it's gotta be good, whatever it is. 3-drop or higher. Dungeon Geists. That was a good one. Alright, Dungeon Geists. Keep that Gargaroth locked down. Play the Destiny Spinner. Okay, Garruk Unleashed. That's going to be a problem. Yep, on the Krenko. That's going to make a ton of tokens. Oh boy. Oh boy, I think we just have to triple block and kill this, and single block and kill that. So don't have much other choice here. We just have to hope one of the last 2 cards in their hand isn't the burn spell. Okay, so 2 for 2. Oof, come on, deck. Well, we're gonna down Luca again, Mireleaf Pixie. Get God Eternal Ronus is something. Pass it up. Yep, I do believe that's going to be the end of the game and the match. If they just swing out, I think they got us here, folks. Blocks. Nope, they put us to 1. Unless they have any combat trick and Embercleave, that's enough. I've seen enough. Alright, so our opponent had a very low to the ground aggro deck, and like I said during the deck tech, low to the ground aggro decks definitely not the strongest suit for this deck. We need a couple of turns to get established, and we didn't really have them there. So we will jump in and challenge this opponent again, because they've agreed to be our opponent for multiple decks this evening, which is very nice of them. We will run this back again, and we'll see what they bring. Red-green aggro is very strong in this format, so that was a good example of strong decks you can expect to face. Alright, we got the play here. 2 lands, neither of them green, and some really great green cards, so we're going to mulligan this. This looks a lot better. We get a Humble Naturalist on 2. We can get up to Yarok on 4 if we get there. I'm going to keep 6. I'm going to get rid of the... Oh no, I'm going to get rid of the Yarok. I'm going to be disciplined, because keeping the Great Henge is great. We have the Fauna Shaman, we have the Humble Natural... No, I'm just going to get rid of the Great Henge. The Great Henge, you can come back later. We're going to shuffle our deck with the Fauna Shaman, so we'll see what our opponent looks to have brought white this time. So Incubation Druid, going to play the Humble Naturalist next turn. Okay, white-black. Play the Naturalist here. Next turn we have Yarok, which is really all I want. Also going to play the Swana Shaman, give them all the information. Next turn we have Yarok, and the ability also to discard. Okay, Oath of Kaya. That's going to tag down the Fauna Shaman. That's fine. Okay, Cultivate. That'll be good for after the Yarok. No attacks, because it's an 0-2. Now, let's hope we can get something that we can abuse Yarok's ETB. Okay, never mind. Our opponent is chock full of removal, so this should be an interesting one. Neoform. We can set that up, but let's start with Cultivate. We will get black mana is a thing we don't have. Put the black in tapped, put the blue in our hand, and we'll attack for 1. We'll end the turn. Don't think it's necessary to... Okay, we've got a Honden, so our opponent is black-white enchantments from the looks of things, and we just keep drawing lands. Alright, well, this will work because we can do this and adapt our Incubation Druid and then attack for 1. Our opponent is going to gain 2 more, so that's really kind of a bugaboo, but we just need a couple of decent creatures and we've got more than enough mana at this point, so... Couple of decent creatures, he said. We're gonna go and attack here. And then we will get a 3-drop with our Neoform. We're going to get a Reclamation Sage to destroy their Honden. Please. We don't want them gaining any more life. And then we're going to sit on here. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and destroy that Castle Ardenvale so they only get to activate it once. And while we're in the deck, we're going to get another green source, since that's what we're low on. Field of Ruin, like I said, is a bit of a relic of when Field of the Dead was the most popular land in the format, but the castles are very powerful, and the ability to answer them is also very powerful. So, basically, we just need to stop drawing lands from here, and I think we'll be pretty well off. Alright, we got to get rid of that Tragic Poet. Opponent's got Argo's Bloodfast here, so they can draw cards, which is also not great. I mean, great that they're dealing damage to themselves. Less so that... Oh, deck. Deck, what are we doing? We gotta talk about this. We'll just keep attacking. I mean, we're attacking for 6, which is a non-zero amount of their life total. So... Yeah, I'm fine to trade the Reclamation Sage for 2 creatures there. Yep, opponent's probably racing to get themselves down to be able to transform Argo's Bloodfast, which seems fine. Okay, Bojuka Bog goes our graveyard, so that's mildly annoying, but we can fight through. We don't have a ton that requires our graveyard. Okay, Archon of Sun's Grace is going to hurt a little bit. Oh. Got its own Aronis. We're going to attack for half of our opponent's life total. With Vigilance. Yep, opponent's looking to dig out, because now we have Aronis. And the 3 life they can gain every turn is pretty nice. Okay, Idyllic Tutor. Vanishing Light's going to make a token with the Archon and get rid of our Ronus. We're going to put our Ronus third from the top. Take that action. And, okay, treasure map. That seems good. So they're tapped out. We're going to take 3. Alright. District Guide. We will search for a land. We will get a forest. We will play this forest. And we will attack for 3. So we've got our opponent pretty low. And yes, we did just shuffle our Ronus back in, but it's in the deck. I'd really like to stop drawing land at this point. There's a lot of stuff we could do with what we have access to in the deck, and we could really start continuing to put the hurt on our opponent, but they have turned a particular corner here with this Archon. Ah, here we go. A Cavalier of Thorns. That will help. It has reach. Oof, some of the stuff we bend. Some of the stuff we bend. Yep, fine there. Keeps them off a creature. Like to see a Kogla here. I would like to see a body double here would be great because we could body double the Ravager Worm. There's actually a lot of things I think I could go for at this point. But either way, game's pretty close. You know, opponent attacking for 5 to our 12, us stacking 8 to their 10, but they're gaining the life. So it's pretty close. The fact that we can block with this Cavalier of Thorns feels pretty solid. I hope they don't get into any removal here. They've definitely managed to claw back into this by gaining life and by removing our threats, so that's kind of annoying. The thing Black-White's good for, right? Removing threats. So, yep, they're going to draw extra cards with Sanctum of Calm Waters. I would too. See what they discard. Massacre Girl. Well, that actually doesn't do anything on this board, so. Gonna go for the block on the Archon here. Yep, that's fine. That is also fine. Because we're going to get back Ravager Worm. Take action. It's the biggest thing we can get. Play the Ravager Worm. For the Riot, we will choose Haste. And... well, sure. We'll destroy our own Ketria Triome, because we can't submit 0, because we have to. Yep. Target Ketria Triome. And... hit our opponent for 4. Yep, opponent gets to draw cards, and they're getting to a place before too much longer where they can flip that Argos Bloodfast, which is also something, so... okay, Vraska's Contempt, they'll gain a little bit more life. Okay, well, the nice thing is that we pop their Doom Foretold here. We draw Biogenic Ooze. So I think our game plan just shifted to make oozes. If they can't remove the Biogenic Ooze, our game plan is make oozes. Because we have 3 green, so we can make an ooze every turn. Kaya, okay. frustrating because they're going to exile... Oh no, just some stuff from graveyard. Okay. And the Birth of Melodus. Yep. Wow. Okay, opponent. Playing tons of cards. Yep. Take our 2 here.
Lucky hit.
We'll make a token. And our oozes will get bigger. You know, opponent is kind of playing off the top of their library, but they're drawing 3 cards a turn to our 1. But we can just keep making oozes. And they will keep making Dreadhorde Invasion tokens. So, now they're drawing 4 cards a turn. Now it's a problem. Now we need to dead them. Fortunately, again, this army gets big pretty quickly, but we need something like a... Not an Evolving Wilds, to tell you that much. We're going to... Kaya's minus is -1. No. Let's attack the face. So we have Enry's Forerunners and Craterhoof that could just end the game here. You know, those are real options for us. We'll end the turn. These oozes are getting bigger. So, yep, and they want to draw out because these oozes are getting huge. And yes, they're going to put a lot of creatures onto the battlefield here, but so many triggers. Opponent drawing so many cards now. Yep. Okay, opponent's going to keep gaining life, which is fine, because we don't really need any of that stuff in our graveyard. At some point, I am a little afraid of their 7/7 that they could play, but they keep doing equally important stuff, like, yeah, making a bunch more tokens. And there's a 7/7, as mentioned. So it kind of has to be one of those 2 big pigs, and it has to be now. Well, Paradise Druid isn't going to do it, but gives us another... puts us one closer to getting another Biogenic Ooze. Okay. Opponent's back to nearly a full hand. Still in a place where we have a 2-outer here. Ugin. Farts. Yeah, that shrinks our army quite a bit. Still don't think they can attack yet, but it's getting to the point. Does Agent of Treachery do anything here? we steal... Okay, Agent of Treachery is interesting because any of these planeswalkers we could steal and start either exiling their tokens or doing things like that. With Kaya, we could get cards off the top of our library. With Ugin, I think we're going to go ahead and steal the Ugin. Because that makes two creatures, then the Agent and the Ugin token, which has a land under it, so, you know, this game continues to happen where we have all of the land. Yep, opponent's just drawing so many more cards than we are. It's almost to the point at which they could just attack all out and the blocking situation would be so bad they'd kill us in 2 turns. Oof. That's gonna hurt. Third Sanctum is going to hurt.
I'm gonna make myself scarce.
Notably, Kaya is lethal next turn. So we have to find a way to get rid of Kaya. Also, Craterhoof still just wins. Now we see the power of Elspeth, getting to activate twice in a turn thanks to the escape. Elspeth conquers death. Exiles our Agent of Treachery, which is interesting. Dusky Z, our boy. There's Karuga, which wouldn't have done anything. No, we're just going to go ahead and concede here. Definitely drew our deck in the wrong order that game. Gave the opponent way too much time while we were fumbling about just drawing tons of land. We'll play again. Again with the one-lander that we can't keep. Okay, this one we can keep, and it looks a little bit better. We've got a Goose, we've got a Marrowleaf Pixie. So we can Goose on 1, no matter what we draw, we can Marrowleaf Pixie on 2. Possibly gets us into Acolyte of Affliction if we keep drawing land. We're going to bottom the Mirror March. Not the Acolyte, the Mirror March. There we go. Play Goose. Swings and roundabouts of these mana troubles tonight. Kind of bonkers, to be honest. We'll draw another card. That's still not a land somehow. 40 land in this deck. 40% of the deck is land. Okay, opponent with the Lotus Field. Field of Ruin feels really annoying if that didn't have hexproof, which I guess is the whole point, but it's still frustrating. We're going to play the Kiora because it ramps us. Or, well, it has the potential to ramp us. We attack with the 0-2 because it's about sending a message. Field of Ruin is a real bear there. Okay, Ill-Gotten Inheritance. Well, as it turns out, I have exactly the answer to Ill-Gotten Inheritance. We'll take action and destroy that. And attack for 3. And what's nice is we still have Brontodon. We have Mirror Image now to copy the Marrowleaf Pixie. Or we can just do this. And Exclusion Mage that Archon. Untap there. And attack for 5. Play a Sanctum. Yep, I think they played that in the wrong order. Okay. Just going to do this. And pass the turn. And then we're going to make a food at the end of turn. Unless they target... See what they target with the Oath of Kaya. What is getting targeted? The Rex Sage. Okay. Well, that's annoying. We'll let all that resolve. Now they play an arena. That's why they wanted the Rex Sage gone. Just so they could guarantee to land that arena. Pass to attackers, which they didn't do. We're going to make a food. And we're going to body double, copy and Reclamation Sage, and get rid of that Phyrexian Arena anyway. And now we will untap the Marleaf Pixie and pass the turn. Not really the way I wanted to go about doing that, but getting that Phyrexian Arena off the board, they went pretty far. Okay. Smothering Tithe is going to be a problem. Well, there's the Duress. You see you can't get anything out of my hand there. That is just dead against this deck. Unless I'm holding one of the Planeswalkers in the deck, Duress is just a dead card. We're going to take 4 here, because we can right now. We're also, unfortunately, going to not pay for the Smothering Tithe, because we cannot let them, or we can't do that. Resolve. Decline. Now comes the question. Do we try to get a 4-drop or higher and do something interesting with Luca, or do we take the line where we just kill the Smothering Tithe? I think we take the line where we just kill the Smothering Tithe, even though we can't do that. Yeah, we can do that this turn. Okay. We'll put out the Acolyte. Get back a Reclamation Sage. Untap a Forest. Play the Reclamation Sage. Take out the Smothering Tithe. And pass it up again. And unfortunately continue losing to the absolute cavalcade of value that is Archon of Sun's Grace. While continuing to have the exact opposite problem that we had last game. So this turn we're going to go for a 5-drop or higher with Luca. We're going to get rid of the Acolyte of Affliction, see what we can get. Our opponent is once again going to get rid of our Reclamation Sage. They really do not want us to have that. That time it was the body double, which is interesting. They're going to take 6, which is not nothing, but we do get to see what we get to see with Luca this turn. There are a lot of options. Okay, Solve for Falls is going to come into play tapped. Play this Luca. Going to go for a 5-drop or higher. And raise Forerunners seems pretty good. It unfortunately does not kill our opponent, but everything does get to attack with Vigilance. If they don't block, they're dead. Okay. we move on to game 3 again. And that's why Luca's great. Because sometimes it's Endray's Forerunners. To be honest, at 5-drop or higher, I don't think there was a bad get there at all. Alright, we got Rhythm of the Wild. We got Hoof in hand, which is actually not really where we want it, but we have the Rhythm. We're 1 red mana source away from Rekindling Phoenix. Yeah, we're going to keep this. Rhythm giving everything haste, or potential for haste, is just huge. And we got Cultivate, so we don't even actually have to worry about playing the Rhythm on 3, because we're going to play this Cultivate, and we're going to get another red source, and probably a blue source. And there's Luca, even better, because we can Luca away the Rekindling Phoenix, which is just absolute gas. Blue, red, put the red in tapped, put the blue in our hand. Yep, opponent's got a Sanctum, making a mana. Now that's interesting, we've got a potential for Golos here. Let's go ahead and play Golos. We will also get the mana ramp opponent. We will take action. We will get something that taps for white. We need white and green. Because now we can play the Cavalier, and we can play Luca, and we can also, almost there in activating Golos. We're 1 land away from activating Golos. May also just cast Luca and get rid of Golos. Now, our opponent's going to Mortify Golos. That seems fair. Ooh, that would have been cool. We're going to Cavalier of Thorns here. See if we can get another land. We get multiple lands. Let's get Castle Garenbrig in here. And play this Incubation Druid. Because now we're in a place where we can't, unfortunately, cast this Agent of Treachery, but we can do a lot of other things. We can cast this Agent of Treachery. Interesting. That's going to enter tapped. Play this Rekindling Phoenix. Play this Rhythm of the Wild and be bad at Arithmetic and have missequenced that. So there's our oops. Our opponent had an oops before. We have an oops now. And next turn, if we want to, we can play the Crater Hoof and 4, 12, 16, and that should close out the game. Should. Obviously, it's Magic. A lot of things can happen. Our opponent has 6 mana, which can do a lot. If they remove the Rekindling Phoenix, we do just get it back. Okay. I'm going to go for it. Because it can't be countered. I think that just does it. I think the only thing that gets us here is Settle the Wreckage, which I've been gotten by before. Settle the Wreckage. Alright. Good job, opponent. But we do get to clear out 4 lands from the deck. Which seems pretty good. If they play anything, basically, we're going to Agent of Treachery it this turn. And attack them. Yep, let's steal their Golos. Let's steal their Declaration of Independence. We're going to give this haste. We're going to steal their Golos. We're going to attack. We're going to Luca. We're going to plus Luca. We do actually get to cast this Paradise Druid. Which is going to get a +1 counter. Alright. We can now activate their Golos. So Oswald's Nightmare, goodbye our Agent of Treachery, so we can't Luca into Endray's Forerunners, which is kind of what I was hoping to do. But, and they see the Archon again. Alright, so we're going to start with a Golos activation. Archetype of Affliction with haste. Get back the Agent of Treachery. Cast the Agent of Treachery with haste. Stealing their Archon of Sun's Grace. Downing their Archon of Sun's Grace. Downing Luca with their Archon of Sun's Grace. To get Terror of the Peaks with haste. And now got Eternal Ronus with haste. GG. Well, I think that's probably going to do it for this video. Thank you very much for watching. If you liked that, the list is down below. You can copy that out. You can also, I will include a link to the Gladiator Discord as well, so you can check that out. Thanks a ton to Thagi, I don't know how they pronounce it, for being our opponent for those two games. Thank you guys for liking, commenting, subscribing, and doing all the YouTube stuff. And I hope that was kind of an explanation of what Gladiator can do. It was two very different decks from our opponent, and a third different kind of deck from us. Format's great, really is. So if you liked it, check it out. Like I said, links down there below. Bye, everybody.